Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel and all kinds of things related to narcissism and narcissistic relationships. Here comes another proverb, and this is one many of you have heard, which is, don't miss the forest for the trees. So not everyone's always clear what that means, but again, keep the proverbs coming, and let's sort of deconstruct this one, which really gives us a lot of insight into narcissistic relationship. Don't miss the forest for the trees. So this proverb is really about not getting so caught up in the component parts of something, in this case the trees, that you miss the wholeness of something, which is the entire forest. And this is wisdom that cuts across many, many parts of life. You get so caught up in the details, for example, of planning an event, you forget what the event is for. You get so lost in researching the details of a paper or something you are writing that you forget what the actual goal was of the paper. You may, for example, get so caught up in the little details of a vacation and every little thing you're going to do that you forgot that it was really just to get away for a while, take a breather, and just get a different point of view. This proverb about the forest and the trees has its origins in the 16th century, and it was used in the writings of some guy named John Haywood. But these videos are about connecting this proverb. I'm not going to analyze here and talk about forests and trees all day. To take this proverb and tie it to understanding narcissism and narcissistic relationships. In many ways, this saying could actually shed some light on what happens in the early phases of a narcissistic relationship. Too often, people really do get caught up in the trees of the narcissistic relationship. This matters most in relationships that we may initiate in adulthood. Romantic relationships, workplace relationships, friendships, those kinds of things. When we meet new people, we spend too much time focused on the trees, basically the superficial stuff of a person, what they look like, what they do, their level of success, their interests, but not really the whole person. We deconstruct them. And that sort of proverbial tree focus really benefits narcissistic people in relationships because they're really good at mounting up some really good trees. The research is clear that narcissistic individuals care far more about their appearance. They look better than the average person, they dress better, they make more money, they put more effort into curating and displaying a more interesting life than the rest of us have. And that is just all the trees. These trees can also play on cognitive dissonance. Just as we notice things about the person that we do not like, for example, things that we might see in a narcissistic person like rudeness, arrogance, rage, manipulation, disrespect, we then talk ourselves out of it because we are reminded that they're actually kind of interesting, smart, successful people, and then even worse, may blame ourselves for thinking that, we deserve respect. Like, maybe I'm asking too much. This whole thing gets very messy fast when all we focus on is the trees. In a way, to see the forest and not just the trees in a narcissistic person is in fact a working through of the cognitive dissonance. The ability to integrate the holistic vision of the person instead of just getting distracted by the shiny details. The narcissistic people out there are counting on you not seeing the forest. See the forest, it's a bit of a problem. Instead, the narcissistic people That their ability to be showy and fancy or clever, or at least convince you that they're clever or wonderful or all of that, to convince you those things are true, that might be enough to keep you focused on the trees. Seeing forests means that we have to face down uncomfortable facts and uncomfortable truths. In a way, to see the forest means having to integrate the pieces that don't fit and make sense of them and critically analyze them, or just integrate all the details if we don't like them. Seeing the forest means a reckoning. That this is a toxic relationship with some pleasant elements scattered here and there. If we focus on the trees, it's a way in some ways of avoiding the reckoning, or the recognition that we can just jump from tree to tree and not have to recognize how treacherous that forest really is. Seeing the forest for the trees is actually, I guess we could call it a mark of wisdom, an ability to integrate knowledge and see the broader themes. My students over the years who get A's, who get the strong grades, are the ones who are able to do this. Not just focus on memorizing the trees and the flashcards, but see how all the topics come together. But when it comes to our personal relationships, it gets a lot harder. Seeing the trees doesn't mean dismantling a relationship. On the contrary, in a healthy relationship, seeing a forest or seeing the forest for the trees may be how we keep healthy relationships in place. In a healthy relationship, you may have someone who is good and kind and compassionate and respectful, but maybe they're not so shiny. Maybe they don't have such shiny, fancy credentials. Maybe they struggle a little bit with money even though they work hard. Or maybe they've come upon a run of bad luck. But they're kind and patient. And if all you did was focus on the superficial trees, you may actually not see the larger virtues of this relationship. This forest tree thing runs both ways. But ultimately, the narcissistic people out there benefit from you staying tree focused and never noticing the whole forest. Because if you do, you recognize that while there are a few really, really nice trees in there, the forest is actually really bleak and really dangerous. And so maybe we take the lazy way out and try not to look at the forest. But as this old bit of proverbial wisdom, the forest and the trees, tells us, that's never a good idea. When the trees start to coalesce into a forest, pay attention. And when you're in a narcissistic relationship, take your eyes off the trees for a minute, pay attention to the forest, and decide whether or not you want to stay in that forest or get out. Thanks again.